judges were using it right now, so. All right, and so we're here on clause number 323-108-172-18 in the interest of a child. And I think this was the date and time we set for judicial review back when I did the permanency review in March. And it looks like Dad is here, along with his attorney, Mr. Adler. Ms. Williams is here, along with the caseworker, Ms. Sanders, and also the child's attorney, Ms. Barrows, is here. Okay. Okay, and so I think what I wanted to do is I wanted to reconvene today to talk about a plan going forward. I remember there's some frustration that the child wasn't really transitioning fast enough to go with Dad. And I did read the CASA report that there was, a few hiccups, but from what Ms. Barrows submitted to me in her report a few days ago, my understanding that Dad is pretty much on track doing what he's supposed to do to make sure that he can meet the child's emotional needs. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Is that your understanding, Ms. Williams?
I think that they're currently working on it, but I don't know that CPS's position is that they're there at that point, but I think they have some services in place to address some of the issues.
Okay. Prior to the COVID stuff, was Dad and daughter still seeing each other? Still visits?
Yes.
Okay. And those visits were going okay, or was that the time where he was kind of, from what I read in the CASA report, he was kind of losing his temper or whatever?
Yes, he was losing his temper with staff and with, I guess, all the parties on the case.
Okay.
That was kind of where the concern came from.
Was he losing his temper with a child? That's kind of what I wanted clarification on.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Adler, what are your thoughts about what's going on?
Well, Judge, Mr. Johnson, and I can't see him for some reason, but
he's up on
he's been ready.
Yeah. Mr. Johnson, can you hear us? I don't think you have your, what's it called? Not your sound. Your audio connected. His video is there. I can see a picture of him, but it seems to be paused. And so I don't know, Mr. Johnson, if you want to jump off and then jump back on, sometimes that helps. Or if you're on Zoom from your phone, if you swipe right, you should be able to unmute yourself. And then maybe in the upper right-hand corner, I think, if I can remember correctly, might be the option to join the audio. Not sure. If anybody knows for certain, feel free to correct me. Okay. Well, okay, go ahead, Mr. Adler.
Anyway, without getting into the other things that Mr. Johnson probably wants to say to you, Judge, which would pretty much be the same thing that he told you last time in court, of course, he's ready for his child to come home.
Okay.
So
my thing is just, unless someone can tell me differently, he was pretty frustrated in court the last time I remember before we all shut down and started doing stuff from home. I can see where he's coming from. Because he was, if I remember correctly, I don't have the full file with me, but if I remember correctly, he was a non-offending parent.
He was a non-custodial parent at the time. I can kind of go into a little bit of the history if you want, or Miss Williams can help out, or Miss Burrows. The mom, the respondent mom, and my client, Mr. Johnson, didn't have any contact for years. So when CPS finally served him, he didn't know anything about his daughter for the longest time. So it was kind of like a fresh start kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and he did his services, but it's been a challenge throughout this case. But as I look at you today, he's ready to have his child. That's
okay. And I do recall that happening. I do recall that now that you've confirmed that. So Ms. Barrows, and you, in your report, you indicate you think it's best for her to go ahead and start increasing visits to begin that trend.
Yes, Your Honor, if that's the way that we're going, if Dad is continuing, of course, to do the TBRI training, she, you know, be with her dad, but we do understand that it's going to be a transition. So we just want, you know, more access. So, you know, they had that right before COVID. I think we were in court and the child got the, you know, extended time to go to the zoo and things like that.
Yeah.
But now with COVID, you know, it's been difficult. So we would just want, you know, maybe some extra time on the weekends and to see how, you know, how things are going and allowing Dad to utilize what he's been learning working his services.
Yeah. And that's kind of the place that I was hoping that we were at with this case by today, that we could begin sort of transitioning them, spending more time together, and kind of put Dad's newly learned skills to the test. And Mr. Adler, your client, while I do understand his frustration with the department and everything, he's going to have to learn that, you know, he's almost at the end, okay? And so kind of try to rein that in, because if he can't sort of figure out how to put that aside, because that's what's best for his daughter, then I would be a little bit concerned about how he faces challenges that they're going to face when she comes home, you know?
Judge, I've had that discussion with them numerous times.
I mean, they don't, nothing I've heard has indicated that they deserve to be disrespected in any way. So not that anybody does, but there's just nothing that I could see would justify a reaction that way, I've been told. So
I agree with you.
Oh, it looks like I see some action on Mr. Johnson's phone. I don't know if he's, so I trust you, Mr. Adler, that you would explain things to him that way. So what do their visits look like right now?
So we wanted to get a little more clarification because you ordered one unsupervised visit. And so I wanted to see if it could be, if you want all of them unsupervised at this point or stay supervised. But during COVID, Mr. Johnson requested that we hold off on face-to-face visits until his son could be a participant. So they were.
Oh, Miss Sanders, I'm losing you. Can you move a little bit closer, or you cut out a little bit? I heard the last thing I heard you say, I think, was until his son could participate.
Yes, so the visits were limited to just the parent and the child in care during COVID. And so we wanted to wait until his son could participate in visits. And so that's where we're at right now.
Okay. Well, I think it's important that Dad has visits with the child alone as well. And I would be okay with that face-to-face contact right now. Unsupervised. Mr. Adler, do you know anything about that? I mean, why would he just not want to see her face-to-face for that reason?
Judge, I don't know the answer to that yet. He does have a son that he gets on the weekends.
Okay.
And I don't know if he was worried about shelter in place and that kind of thing.
Okay, maybe he's got to deal with the mom of that son, or maybe,
right.
Yeah, maybe no one to leave him with or something. Okay.
Right. He does live
All
by
right.
himself now, and he does get his son on the weekends.
Okay. This whole situation brings up, I mean, it's just little things here and there that we don't think have suddenly become an issue. Okay.
Well, also his father is elderly too, so that could have been something
be okay
as well.
All right. Well, I'm comfortable. I know you guys have been handling that. I'm comfortable with that, but I would like, you know, as soon as he's able to, for whatever reasons, have unsupervised extended visits. Okay. So if you guys, Ms. Williams, I noticed that you guys did submit a permanency order for today, but I kind of want to just leave it on for, what would it normally been? It would have be in September.
In September.
Yeah. I kind of, for Mr. Adler's client, kind of want to keep my finger on it a little bit, but we don't know what these restrictions are going to mean. I think we're supposed to hear something this week about further plans going forward. So what do we say, maybe revisit this end of June and see if visits have restarted, if there can be some sort of a plan for step up or whatever. Or even I'm willing to go mid-July if that, and then if obviously Mr. Adler knows how to bring some, bring something to court if he needs to before then, but.
Hey, Judge, can I, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can I ask Ms. Williams a question?
Sure.
Ms. Williams, is OCOK under the same kind of guidelines that CPS is under, do you know, with the stay at home and the visits and all that stuff? Or is OCOK having their own guidelines in our region as far as visits?
Well, I don't know which guidelines you're speaking to. How it's being handled in Tarrant County is really depending on what orders might have come out of the court. And I don't recall on this case, Cassie Griffin, if we had a special ad litem submit an order for any different kind of visitation.
We did not. There isn't one. I checked.
There's not
So,
one. Okay.
right.
And so
So
that
everything is status quo unless you guys agree otherwise, basically like
Right.
a normal situation. Yeah.
that's exactly what we're doing. If there's not an order in place, is we're just doing what's been the plan. So I think the opportunity is there. I don't know if we want to address today the issue of the visitation, including the son or not. I think that's what to me sounded like the bigger barrier for Mr. Johnson was that his son was not going to be able to attend the visits, that it was going to be just he and Cassie. And so that was the struggle for him. And I don't know, obviously it could change at any point, but today that would still be the same status. So did you want to address that, Judge?
Well, I guess I don't, because we don't know what the factors are. We don't know why he's unable to do that. If it's just because of the policy and he doesn't have care for his son, or if it's because, like I think as Barrow said, there's an elderly person they're trying to protect from exposure. I'm not sure what the factors are there. But if possible, if he's able to take his son, I would like to eliminate that as a barrier and order that he's able to take his son to the, they're in the same household. I know they're concerned about more people exposing, was she at the RTC still?
Yes.
But to see if there's anything that can be worked out with that, if they're the barrier, if they're the reason. Now, if it's dad has to do it because of something on his end, then I can't really help that. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Does. And Kaylee, can you speak to that? If in your conversations with Mr. Johnson regarding the visits, and he's indicated he wanted to hold off until, because his son wasn't able to be there. Has he given you more information about that?
That is it. He's shared that him and his son are a package deal, and he feels like Cassie is more comfortable with his son there. And so he would like his son to be a part of visits.
And when you had explained to him that the visits were to be between he and Cassie only, that was based on something from OCOK or something from the RTC? Where did that come from?
OCOK.
From OCOK. So did you understand what the judge just said, that unless there's some reason that we could explain why the son couldn't also attend the visit, that she would like for the son to be allowed to come to the visits? Is there a reason that you know of that would be not safe?
I don't. She said since they're in the same household, then that's the point. But I believe they're opening visits back up, so I can double check on that, but I don't think it'll be an issue.
Okay. You don't know of anything that makes that unsafe?
Other than the coronavirus,
right.
From household to household, but.
Okay.
Well, what precautions are they taking at the visits there?
At the facility, they've just shut down visits at their facility.
Okay.
And so
but if visits were to occur between father and daughter, in this case, where would they have been?
We will have to find an agreed upon location.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So that doesn't even affect anyone at OCOK, especially if it's unsupervised, it doesn't even really expose anybody. Son could easily stay in the car while they do the change out the child or whatever, so That's kind of what I needed to know. That's kind of the missing link. So if that's the way visits are going, then I don't see any reason why son couldn't go. Especially since it's not like you're bringing another person into a facility. So,
Okay.
That makes sense, everybody?
Yes. I think so.
I saw somewhere that there was something set for June on this case. I think it was in the permanency report.
So I think we had talked about having it reset for a review in June to revisit to see where things were. But we're here now, so if we can just move it back to September when its 6-month time would be, or I think you said, I'm sorry, mid-July.
Yeah, does that sound good, Mr. Adler?
Well, Judge, and let me just apologize in advance because I'm missing something. So if you don't mind me asking the caseworker, Cindy, Ms. Sanders, is Mr. Johnson going to get unsupervised visits with his child when it's safe?
Yes.
And can he go pick up his child? And are we talking about him overnights and him getting to take her home and bringing her back? Or are we talking about a set amount of times? That's what's unclear to me, listening to everybody today. So what are we talking about? Or is that something that you haven't staffed yet with Cindy?
Well, the first visit that took place in March was, I think, Saturday for a period of time. Mm-hmm. And so I guess if the question is out there, what should it be? We would have to ask the judge. CPS, I think, would recommend we at least continue at that same pace and see how things go. Mm-hmm. Our concern being that Cassie did go home with her father at the beginning of this case. We did try that right away because he was the non-custodial father, and the mother said she couldn't handle the behaviors. But then the father couldn't handle the behaviors either, and that was very detrimental to Cassie. We don't want to see that happen again. We'd like her home, but once he's ready to manage these behaviors that I think are greater than he had expected. It sounds like in the last 2 months, he's made a lot of progress on working on some TBRI techniques and understanding how to manage Cassie and her behaviors. So we think that's promising and would like to see that move along and progress, but not too fast. And maybe overnights, we would think at this time might be too fast until we can see how these day visits go and that he can manage her behaviors, because that again became the problem last time, and he became very frustrated. And maybe it was with DFPS, but frustrated that he couldn't manage those behaviors and demanded her be returned back to care. And I think if that were to happen again, that would be very detrimental.
I agree with everything you just said, Ms. Williams. And yes, at the beginning of the case, she came back home with him full time and quickly came back into care. But Mr. Johnson does really, really good with knowing exactly what we're talking about. That's the only reason I'm asking. Are we talking about 4 hours on a Saturday until July unsupervised? Can he go pick her up? Because Mr. Johnson needs as much guidance from us saying, this is exactly what you can do when you have unsupervised visits, and these are the hours, and this is where you pick her up, and this is where you drop her off.
Yeah.
That's all.
Or was he doing or Mr. Adler, was he doing the Sunday because he's off on Sundays, and maybe he could just do, like a 4-hour, 8-hour visit and on Sundays.
No offense, you guys just tell me what you think, and then he can work around his schedule because he's a tow truck driver, right? And he works all the time. So he makes do with what we tell him. So if y'all agree, just whatever hours it is and the time and all that, he'll make sure it happens.
Okay, so that's all good. So boy, in an ideal world, if it weren't for coronavirus, I would say I would want her back with him by the time school starts. But we don't know when these visits are going to start face-to-face is the problem. So as soon as they can start, what I would like to see is like 6 to 10 hours unsupervised. See how that goes, but set, you guys come up with the time, whatever as agreed. And like you said, Mr. Adler, with the details, where's the pickup drop off point, what day of the weekend, what hours from what to what, and pick up drop off or whatever. And then I think if there's going to be an issue, we'll probably see it within 3 to 4 weeks. What do you think, Ms. Barrows?
Oh, no, with her behaviors, you'll see it pretty quickly.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So probably within the first 2 to 3 visits, I would think we would see it. And so what I would say is if we have a month or 4 consecutive visits where everything's smooth and doesn't go, then we can maybe transition to an overnight visit.
Okay.
And then
That sounds good.
see how that goes for about 4 weeks. You know, I think, like you said, I think with this child, it's going to be within the first few of any sort of change that we're going to see something be disruptive. And so probably after, you know, probably the 2nd month, I think that overnight would be good. And then maybe transition to weekends and then like a full weekend and then full time. So I think within—
And Judge, I don't know if you're aware, but the child had made an outcry while at Devereaux, so she was interviewed by the CAC, and I think her caseworker can give a little more information on that. But I don't know if we need to add any additional therapy or something along those lines as well, given the outcry that was made.
So her CAC interview, it was actually rescheduled. I found that out when I talked to her this month. There isn't a date to when it actually has been rescheduled to, but I can let everybody know when it does get rescheduled.
Okay. Was it because of the COVID thing? Is that why they did? Well, that kind of puts a damper on things because we don't know what she's going to need. Okay. Well, I guess that like if we're coming back mid-July, we should have an answer to that by then, right? I would think. So.
For sure.
Okay. Okay,
For
and
sure.
so that's what we'll do is we'll I'm not gonna do a permanency order today. I'll do it the next time. And then but just with that guidance from today that the transition needs to begin now or as soon as COVID allows the visits to start face-to-face. So and I'll just leave that to you guys to work out. If you guys want to submit an agreed order on the visitation plan, you can do that or other but it feels like you guys have been working this one out pretty well, other than Dad's not getting her back as fast as we hoped, but at least we're beginning the transition now. So, okay. Anything else on this that I should be aware of? No?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Barrows and Ms. Williams, the hair growth looks good on you. And I've also noticed, and I've been telling, for what it's worth, you know, I told Judge Porter, I think the other day, I'm like, you know, don't get a haircut. I think I'm kind of liking the fuller, you know, look. Maybe they'll change the hair trends for men going forward. But
that's funny.
Okay, there was one more little thing I wanted to ask. Okay, that's it. Ms. Williams, do you have an end date yet?
An end date for
a last day date for you?
me? Oh, well, unfortunately, I don't.
Well, that's good. That's good for us. Good for us, bad for you. So, all right. If there's nothing else, I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thanks, Judge.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.